sadness is that the word in the street in our region is that why are we participating in a foreign war? Now, this is not a foreign war, it is, or an American war. It is a confrontation between those who are using the stick of terror tactics and the management of savagery in European and Western capitals in the same manner that they have been using it for so many years. So I would entreat you to bear in mind that similar horrors with similar sad stories tragic stories in Beirut, in Ankara, should not be forgotten, in Tunisia for that matter. I think the whole Mediterranean, whether the south, the east or the west, is boiling, and the time for a stabilization of the region, let's hope the conversation between Presidents Obama and Putin might contribute to that stabilization, but we simply cannot allow those countries who are funding this terror to continue to get away with it.
Prince Hassan, the King of Jordan, in a speech this Sunday said the Muslims had to take the lead role in that fight. Is this a way of saying that they haven't been doing so until now, and that they need to really beef up their war, if you will, against Daesh?
I definitely believe so. I mean, if you look at the poor Yemen in Hadramaut, for example, which is a peaceful part of the world that has exported commerce to Indonesia and the Far East for centuries, you now have Daesh and Qaeda. Look at what's happening in Libya, look at what is happening in Iraq, in Syria. The vacuum left by war has been one whereby the Muslims have almost announced that their role is to recognize the importance of NATO interventions. Well, all of the NATO interventions, if they are not in partnership with Muslims stating clearly that they want to stabilize the region, that they want to stand up against the exploiters, I think is very clear. But at the same time, the financing of Daesh, a country the size of the UK is what they control today in northern Iraq and parts of Syria, is not only, as Robert Fisk has put it, by stealing money from vaults or drug trafficking or managing oil. So if certain Gulf countries are not financing them, and who is financing them? That's the question I want to know.
Do you think that certain Gulf countries need to be clearer on their stance vis-à-vis Daesh and maybe stop financing them or allowing Daesh to be financed by looking the other way?
I think exactly that if this financing exists, it has to stop. And I think that if this two-faced reality exists, then it has to end. And what is important today is that the countries who are paying the price, like my country, where subsidies for refugees are not going anywhere, they're less than 20% promised, have to be substituted by, for example, a universal zakat fund or a regional bank for reconstruction and development. Why can't Islamic foundations be altruist instead of supporting the dark side, as it were? And when is it that we are going to wake up to the fact that with a population of 1 in 4 or 1 in 6 refugees, with 48,000 children born in Jordan in the last few years, these are going to be the bombs of the future. So when are we going to invest in human beings rather than just talking about security in terms of weapons of mass destruction and the war on terror? When are we going to start waging peace? Not by the contradictions that exist within our coalitions, for sure.